Okay, let's get started. So today we are going to discuss about two topics. First one is what are the disadvantages of distributed operating system, and the second thing is mutual exclusion policy in distributed operating system. So these two topics we are going to cover today. So let me tell you what are the limitations and what are the disadvantages of distributed operating system. The first disadvantage is the first type of disadvantage is it has no global clock or the absence of global clock in distributed operating system. What is the meaning of that? Say, in distributed operating system, two or n number of process can share their resources or can access or occupying critical section which is located another network. As an example, say one process which is executing in my computer, and now I am located in Durgapur area network. Another process is executing to Kolkata area network, and number 3 process is executing in Bangalore area network. Now say process number 2 which is located at Kolkata area network want some resources or want to execute one critical section which is located at Bangalore area network. At the same time, the process which is located in Durgapur area network wants to access same resources which is located in Bangalore area network. Then what will happen? Two processes are competing with each other for access one resources which is located to completely different area network. Then what will happen? The whole system will goes into the deadlock situation, because no process can grant the resources because this resources is occupying by process number 3. So what will happen? The whole system will goes to the deadlock situation because two processes are competing with each other for accessing a single resources, but it is not granted. What happen in parallel system means normal operating system, kernel handles these types of deadlock situation. The main task or main function of kernel is to avoid this type of deadlock situation when two or n number of processes are competing with each other for accessing a single request. What kernel do? Kernel give us timestamp value to each and every network, means kernel gives burst time or which is called scheduling. So there is preemptive scheduling, non-preemptive scheduling, first come first served basis. So various types of scheduling policies are available in our normal operating system. So by using this type of scheduling policy which is provided by kernel, we can handle this type of difficulties or these types of deadlock situation in our parallel system or normal operating system. But what happens when two or more processes are located completely different area network, and each and every system has its own local memory, has its own local software, has its own local hardware, and also has its own kernel? Then what will happen? So That is the big disadvantages or limitation of distributed operating system. There is no concept of global clock who can provide or who can give a timestamp to each and every process. So that is the first disadvantages, and the second disadvantage is the absence of shared memory in distributed operating system. What is the meaning of that? If you remember the reader-writer problem in normal operating system, there is one shared memory concept. Means if a single variable which is used by 2 or n number of process, then what happens? If a single resources which is used by 2 or n number of process, or single variable which is used by 2 or n number of process, so there may be some reader and writer problem in our local memory. What is the problem? Say process 1 execute a variable whose name is a, and after executing is the value of a is say 5. So after executing the variable a, what process number 1 do? Process number 1 just put the value into a shared memory which is shared by all processes into our system. So after write the value, another process, say the process number 2 read the value of a and see the value of a is nothing but 5. So he just access the value or executing the value or act some operation on a. After executing a, say the value of a is updated to 10. 5 plus 5, 10. After executing the value a, process B share or put the value of a into shared memory. Then another process, say process number 3, access the value. At first it read the value, what is the previous value of a? The previous value of a is 10. After executing some operation on a, process number 3 updates its value 10 minus 2, that is 8. After executing again, it puts the value into the shared memory, then all process can read the value of a. So that is the concept of shared memory in parallel system or normal operating system. It is called the coherence problem. But what will happen in distributed operating system? There is no concept of shared memory because the distributed operating system is always support loosely coupled architecture. In loosely coupled architecture, each and every system has its own local memory, has its own local software, hardware, etc. etc. So that is the one type of difficulties or limitations in distributed operating system. Now our next topic of discussion is mutual exclusion policy. Mutual exclusion policy or mutual exclusion algorithm in distributed operating system. If you remember the first disadvantages of distributed operating system, there is no concept of global clock in distributed operating system. Then the question is, how can we handle or how can we avoid or how can we prevent the deadlock situation in distributed operating system? So here it is the one solution, that is called mutual exclusion algorithm. When two or more processes are competing with each other for accessing a single resources, then the one solution which is provided by distributed operating system is called mutual exclusion. So the concept of mutual exclusion is nothing but when two or n number of processes are competing with each other for executing a critical section or accessing a single resources, then someone gives some timestamp value to each and every process who are competing with each other for accessing a single resources. If you see the example, here you can see it is process number 1 or set number 1 or site number 1. So it has various names. Someone say process, someone say set, someone say site, etc., etc. So if it is process number 1 and if it is process number 2, and if these two processes are located completely in different area, then what will happen? This is called the event. E11 means this event is situated at process number 1 and its serial number is 1. That is why the name of this event is called 11, E suffix 11. What is the meaning of E12? This event is located at process number 1 and its serial number is 2. That is why the name of this event is 12, E12. And same thing for E3, E13. Same thing is for E13. This process is located at process number 1 and the serial number of this event is 3. That is why the name of this event is 13, like that. And in process number 2, that is same thing. E21 means it is the event which is located at process number 2 and the serial number of this event is 1. That is why the name of this event is E21. Now what happened? Distributed operating system application software provides each and every event one timestamp value, which is in consecutive manner. Means at first it provides timestamp value to first event, that is 1. The next value, timestamp value of next event is 2. Timestamp value of third event is 3, like that. So here you can see in process 1 there is 7 events. So distributed operating system software provides 7 timestamp value sequentially. And in site number 2 or process number 2, same thing. It starts from 1 and it ends with 7. Now what will happen? After some time, E12 event means this event which is located at process number 1 or site number 1 wants to access some resources which is located at process number 2 and the event number is E2, 3. Then what will happen? The rule is the timestamp value of this particular event will change. The new value of this event will be the maximum timestamp value of this 2 event. Means what is its own timestamp value? Its own timestamp value is 3. And what will be the updated value? Updated value is, see here, one incoming edge which is comes from E12 to E23. So one incoming edge means timestamp value is increased by 1. So its previous timestamp value is 2 and it's increased by 1 because one incoming edge is comes from E12 event. So the new updated timestamp value is 3. So in between its own timestamp value and its updated value, which is 3, which one is maximum? Obviously in between 3 and 3, 3 is maximum. So its updated timestamp value is 3. Again you see in 1,5 event, which is located at process number 1, after some time what happened, in process number 2, E22 event wants some resources which is located at E15 event of process 1. So what will happen? Its timestamp value will change. So its one timestamp value is 5 and one incoming edge which is comes from P2 side. So here you can see its timestamp value is 2, means E22's timestamp value is 2 and it is increased by 1 because one incoming edge comes from E22 to E15. So that is 2 plus 1, 3. So in between 5 and 3, which one is maximum? Obviously 5 is maximum. So updated timestamp value of E1,5 is 5. So that is the rule. By this way, distributed operating system can manage this type of deadlock situation, and its name is mutual exclusion policy. So it is one type of policy. There is various types of policy which is available in distributed operating system. So this algorithm, mutual exclusion algorithm, is divided into two parts or divided into two categories. The first category's name is non-token algorithm and the second one is token based algorithm. Concept of non-token based algorithm means same thing. Distributed operating system provides some specific timestamp to each and every event or to each and every site or processes who are competing with each other for accessing a critical section, and by this way distributed operating system can resolve the conflict. So non-token based algorithm itself categorized into three categories. First one is called Lamport algorithm, second one is called Rickert-Agarwal algorithm, and the last one is called McWorth algorithm. And in token based algorithm, what happened? The concept of token based algorithm is one unique token which is shared among all sites or shared among all processes who are competing with each other for accessing a single request. So those processes who wants to access critical section or particular resources have to want a unique token. So that is the concept of token based algorithm. And here you can see this token based algorithm are categorized into three categories: Suzuki's Kasami's broadcast algo, Single's heuristics algorithm, and last one is Raymond tree based algorithm. So in between three algorithm, only first one is included in our syllabus, Suzuki's Kasami broadcast algorithm. Okay. So that is the concept of mutual exclusion in distributed operating system. So first algorithm, you can see first non-token based algorithm is called Lamport algorithm. So now our topic of discussion is Lamport algorithm. see very carefully. So what is happening in Lamport token based algorithm? First of all, we have to know some term. First term is Ri. What is the meaning of Ri? It is the requesting site. It is a set of requesting site. Here S1, S2 up to Sn, these are all requesting set. And CS stands for critical section. So these two terms at first we have to know. Critical section and requesting site, and S1, S2 is called nothing but event in requesting site. So there is 3 steps in Lamport algorithm. First step is called requesting step. Second step is called execution step, and the last one, third step, is called releasing step. So what happened in requesting step? At first, the process who wants to access a critical section, first of all, it has to initialize one request message. After initialization of request message, the distributed operating system or this Lamport algorithm provides a unique timestamp value to this process. So here you can see at first SI. SI means it is the requesting set which is present I side. So at first what happened? Set SI wants some resources or wants to access some critical section which is located at SJ site. So at first what happened? Lamport algorithm provides one timestamp value to SI set. So TS, I means TS is the timestamp value of SI set. That is why it is written by TS, I. And the next thing is each and every set must maintain one queue. Again I am repeating, the main characteristics of Lamport algorithm is each and every set who are competing with each other for accessing a critical section must maintain a queue. So this is the queue, means right hand side, this is the queue for SI set, and this is the queue, means second queue is for SJ set. So what happened? At first SI request initialize one request message to SJ, then the value of Q is updated. The first value of Q is now TS, I, because it is the timestamp value of I set. After receiving the request message, at first SJ do some condition checking, and if the resource is free, then it sends one reply message again to SI set. Then you can see it is the queue of SJ set, and its first value now inserted is TS, I. Then after requesting, the next step is execution of critical section. Execution policy say those who can which process can execute the critical section. The Lamport algorithm says those process has lower timestamp value can access the critical section or execute the critical section. So here two processes are competing with each other, TS and Ti and Tj, but timestamp value of Ti is smaller than Tj, then it can access the critical section, and the timestamp value of Tj is larger than Ti, so it has to wait for some time. So that is the condition of execution. And again same thing here, each and every site has to maintain a queue, and the first value of queue is ts, I. Ts, I means nothing but it is timestamp value of I set. Now the next thing is releasing the critical section. After execution, TSI sends one reply message to TSJ ki say, now my execution time is over, you can execute this critical section. So what happened? Again one queue is maintained by Sj, and its first value, which was ts, I, is removed from queue because now the execution is over. So this value is removed from queue, and then it sends one release message to each and every site ki say, now you can execute the critical section because my execution is over. So that is the 3 steps of Lamport algorithm. See one example. Here you can see there is 3 sets, S1, S2 and S3, and it is the timestamp value factorial 2, 1. What is the meaning of that? 2 is the timestamp value of this event and its site number is 1, means it is event number 1 or site number 1 and its timestamp value is 2. What is the meaning of that? 1, 2 factorial 1, 2, its timestamp value is 1 and event number is 2. Same thing. So here in between these 3 set, requesting set S1, S2 and S3, only S1 and S2 are competing with each other for accessing critical section. S3 is not in the competition. Only S1 or S2 competing with each other. So what happened? After some time, this 2, 1 event wants to access some resources which is located at site number 2. So there is one incoming edge from site 1 to site 2. Now its timestamp value will change. So its own timestamp value is 2, 1 and now another timestamp which is associated with this set, that is 1, 2. Why it is 1, 2? Because this timestamp is coming from previous one, set number 1. Now at the same time S2 wants to access some resources or some critical section which is located at site number 1. So now again the timestamp value of site number 1 will change. Its new timestamp value is 1, 2. Why it is 1, 2? Because one incoming edge is over there from S2 to S1. So that is why it is 1, 2. And why it is 2, 1? It is nothing but its own timestamp value. Now you can see at the same time S1 wants to access some request which is situated at site number 3. So its timestamp value is updated, that is nothing but 2, 1, which is one incoming edge comes from site number 1, and here site number 2 it wants some resources which is located at site number 3. So there is one incoming edge from S2 to S3, that is why its timestamp value is changed. So this is the step number 1. Step number 1 says at first each and every process have to send some request message to each and every site. So site 1 and site 2 sends request message to each other. Step number 2 says it is the time for execution. The rule of execution is the process which has lower timestamp value can execute the critical section. So here in between S1 and S2, whose timestamp value is lower? Obviously the timestamp value of S2 is lower, because here you can see 2 is the timestamp value of set 1 and 1 is the timestamp value of set 2. So in between 2 and 1, which one is lowest? Obviously 1 is lowest. That is why S2 can execute the critical section. That is why S2 entered the critical section. So this is step number 2. Step number 3 says after execution or after complete the critical section, the process have to send one reply message to each and every set. So this is the release message or reply message to S1 and S2. The meaning of this message is now S2 has done its critical section and has done its execution. Now S1 can enter the critical section. So that is the concept of Lamport algorithm. Okay, that is the end of our today's class.